artists. Today we are going to be working on a project called, well, it's an alphabet project. I'm going to read you a story. You're going to be doing your name in the project, and it's based on a piece of work that's by an artist named Jasper Johns. He was an American artist that made all kinds of really fun pop art. Pop art stands for popular. So he was looking at objects that were around him every day, things that would be recognizable to just about anyone. And he would make art based on those recognizable objects. So sometimes it might be a map of the United States. Everybody pretty much knows what a map of the United States looks like. Sometimes it was the American flag, or it might be a target, like a bullseye kind of target. But he also did a series of paintings that were based on the English alphabet and on our number system, 1 through 10. And so I'm going to show you some of those in a little bit. And then I'm gonna read you a book, and then we're gonna do a piece of art based on your name, but inspired by Jasper Johns and inspired by this book called The Numberlys. This book is by William Joyce, and it's illustrated by Christina Ellis. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's a good one for this project. Also kind of a funny book for me to read because it's very long and skinny. A lot of it goes up and down. The Numberlys by William Joyce and Christina Ellis. Once upon a time, there was no alphabet, only numbers. Everyone liked numbers. They had nice shapes and kept things orderly. And everything added up. So life was sort of numberly. Streets were called by their numbers, as were towns, countries, everything. Can you imagine living at house number 12762 on street number 5 in town number 435? In state number 57, in country number 235. There would be a lot of numbers to keep up with all the time. But there weren't any books or colors or jelly beans or pizza. There was only 00267, which was thick and gray and gloopy. And 00268, which was thicker and grayer and, well, gloopier. Doesn't look like very good food, does it? But there were 5 friends who had been thinking for more days than they could count, wondering if they could do something. You see our 5 friends down here? They don't look very interested in what they're eating, do they? That doesn't look very good. They could do something more. Wonder what they think they're going to do. They were tired of the same old thing. Did they need more numbers? Did they need better numbers? Maybe they needed something different. So they started to work. Do you see them? They're hanging out behind the column. Look at all the other people that are working down there in that line. They started to work. Here they go. Down, 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 down. They're swinging some numbers together. Do you see that? We've got a 7, a 3, maybe part of a 6. At first, it was awful. Doesn't work. They're not too happy. Then, artful. So they're coming up with some nice elements. What did they come up with? Do you see the letter A, B, C, D, E, and F? Got lightning bolts. They're figuring some really cool things out. Oh, now comes a G. Next is going to be H, I, J, and K. Putting all kinds of fun lines together. Ooh, coming out down here. L, M, N. Oh, look at P. They're going to be able to slice off and make lots and lots of P's. Q, R, S, T. Oh, and what's that going to be? How about a U? Oh, I'm pressing out a V, and a W, and an X, and a Y. When they came to the last letter, things began to happen. What's happened? Do you see that beautiful color? Things are happening. Look at all the beautiful color letters that they have created, starting with A and going all the way to Z. And they knew it was time to show the Numberly world. They feel pretty proud of what they've done, huh? So here they are. There they are way down there. And they've got their letters up for everyone in the Numberly world to see. Suddenly, the letters formed into words. And as they formed words, their world was filled with amazements, jelly beans, and yellow. Look at all of those good things. Oh, pizza! See? Now they have a pizza place. Ralph and Pamela. They have names, not just numbers. Be happy. All kinds of good things to think about. As the day ended, the 5 were sleepy but satisfied. They had done something new, something different, something more. It's pretty exciting. The end. There they are. They've all gone to sleep. All right, so I'm going to show you the artwork inspired by Jasper Johns. I'm going to try to put that into the video. And then we are going to do a project all together. We're going to need crayons at least and watercolors. Or if you have them, oil pastels work really well. That's what I usually use in the classroom. Oil pastels and watercolors, because the wax that's in the crayon and the oil that's in the oil pastel will resist the water that's in the watercolor. So you can put the two together and they kind of make a little bit of magic where what you write with pushes its way through the water in the watercolor, and we'll get to have 2 different colors in the same spot even if we paint right over it. So we'll have a piece of construction paper, either a crayon or an oil pastel, and you can have as many colors as you want, but definitely a white or a light gray to begin with. and then your watercolors and some water to make sure that you have your brush nice and clean before you go into your new colors. We'll have a lot of fun making our name artwork.
This first piece by Jasper Johns is one of his number pieces. And when we look at it, we can see lots and lots of numbers that are overlapping. He's done basically the primary colors, which are red, yellow, and blue. But those numbers and the colors keep overlapping, which kind of changes the way we see them. So it's kind of where you focus. Now this next piece, which is one of his alphabet pieces, again, he's using lots and lots of color, overlaying one color on top of the other. But within this piece, instead of having his letters all sitting one on top of the other, he has divided them into rows and columns. And then we can see lots of mixing of color. So what we're going to be doing will have something to do with the rows and columns. We'll be using lots of fun colors and seeing how our artwork creates something a little bit different, but sort of similar, inspired by what Jasper Johns has done in this piece of alphabet art.
So artists, to begin our alphabet project, now that we have read the Numberlys and we have looked at a little bit of the Jasper Johns artwork, the alphabet and the numbers, what we are going to do today is going to be a name project. So you're going to be writing your name, and I have a couple of examples here. This one is my name. My first name is Karen, and it's spelled C-A-R-I-N. We've given the project 4 rows of blocks and 4 columns of blocks. So with my name having 5 letters, it doesn't quite fit. That's okay. The plan is that you will have your name, and if it wraps around like this one does, then it wraps around. So I have C-A-R-I-N, 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 C. The next project that I'm gonna show you is one that I did of my son's name. His name is Otis, and he spells it O-T-I-S, and that has 4 letters. So that fits perfectly into the blocks. So O-T-I-S, 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 O-T-I-S. Done. You may have less than 4 letters. You may have 3 letters. So we'll do one today that's going to have that, or I will do one. You are supposed to write your own name. And the reason that I use the uppercase letters is that it fills up the blocks. But before we can do that, we have to make our blocks. So our blocks are going to be made by folding our paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to fold it. So I've got this piece of paper. I'm going to fold one edge over to the other edge. So I'm making it really skinny. It's the same length. I can't say extra long and skinny, but it's skinnier than it was. So it's like a skinny book. So I've taken one edge, I fold it over, I match up those sides as best I can. I push down, and then I'm going to press that out. So that gets pressed out like that. Then I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to take this edge and I'm going to fold it all the way over to that edge. So now it's really skinny, right? And I'm doing my best to line up my edges like that. I press it out so that I get a really nice crease all the way down the side, like that. Now I'm going to open it up. When I open it up, you're going to see that there are 3 fold lines. 1, 2, 3. With those 3 fold lines, I'm going to have my vertical lines, which I will draw in a little bit. But first, I have to fold the other direction. So we did the side to side and made it long and skinny. Now we're going to fold from the bottom to the top lining at those edges as best we can, pressing that out nice and smooth, then folding again, bottom to the top, lining at those edges as best we can, and pressing it out, getting a nice crease in there from the bottom to the top. So when we open this up, we have lots of little blocks. We have 3 fold lines going this way, and we have 3 fold lines going this way. So to do what we're gonna do to kind of help us with that, I've got some crayons here. If we were in the classroom at Canyon View, we might be using oil pastels instead of crayons, but we aren't there today. So I've got my crayons here, and I'm gonna choose the gray so that you guys can really see my lines. Now, if I wanted to, I could also use a white, and I will show you here. This one has a white crayon that goes down and makes those lines. This one has a gray crayon that goes down and makes those lines. So you'll be able to kind of see a little bit of the difference. The white does push through, but I'm going to take my crayon and I'm going to trace out those fold lines. So I'm going to do my very best to follow right along that line. I'm going to do my vertical lines first. Vertical lines go top to bottom. So pressing that out. Then I'm going to do my next one. And if I want to, I can always go through and do a second pass with my crayon, which means that I'm doing it a second time, just making that color a little bit thicker and darker. I don't have to do that, but sometimes it kind of helps a little bit. Do my third line, going across, or going top to bottom rather. Then my next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go side to side. So those are my horizontal lines. So I'm going to start at one side. I go all the way across, staying right on that fold line. Okay, and I'm going to do that one again because it got a little bit light at the edge. Okay, do my second one. Straight across, just like that. And again, I'm going to do that one a second time too. And then finally, I'm going to do my third line. Go straight across. And I'm pressing down. I'm not pressing down super hard. I don't want to break my crayons. If I do break my crayons, it's not the end of the world. But I've got my crayon. So now I've done 3 vertical lines, 1, 2, 3. And I've got 3 horizontal lines, 1, 2, 3. So that breaks this space up into 16 blocks. Okay, I've got 4 across the top, 4 down the side. So now I'm going to write my name or a name. And I showed you one that has 4 letters. This is Otis. Okay, so there's 4 letters there. And I repeated the letters over and over and over again. This one has 5 letters. C-A-R-I-N. And on this one, I did a pattern with my crayon. I did not do a pattern with my painting, but I did with my crayon. So it goes orange, blue, purple, yellow, green. Orange, blue, purple, yellow, green. Orange, blue, purple, yellow, green, orange. Okay, so this one, I did not do a pattern. I just mixed up my crayons. I used different colors and did lots of different things with it. So, so you can make a pattern if you like to. You do not have to. And then I have a third one here that I'll show you. I began it so that you can see. This is Amy, A-M-Y, 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 A. So as you go through, you're going to be mixing it up however you choose. Again, so this time I will show you, I'm going to choose different crayons. So I've got a purple, an orange, a blue, kind of a peach, a yellow, a deep, it says red violet, and then we're gonna do this one, which is just a regular red, and a nice pale yellow. So I have kind of a dandelion yellow and a lighter yellow. So these are gonna be my colors. If I choose to use a pattern, I can. I don't have to. And this time for my name, I'm going to use a 3-letter name again. This time I think I'll do the name Mia. And I'm going to mix up my colors. I'm not going to worry about doing a pattern. But what I am going to do is I'm going to make sure that I always use uppercase letters. If you use lowercase letters, it's okay. But what I like about the uppercase letters is that it really fills up that space. And so I'm not worried about making teeny tiny letters. I want my letters to be really nice and big. So if my name were Mia, I would do a nice big M. Okay. Nice big I. And you can just kind of see that I. I might do that one, especially because it's so light, I might do it a second time. And actually, I'm going to do that with my red too, because I really like for those colors to be nice and bright. So I'm going to go over that another time, like that. Okay. And then A would be the last letter, M-I-A. Okay. Now some of you might have a really long name like Amelia or Giovanni or something like that. And you can spell out your whole name if you want to, or you can do a nickname if you want to. It's up to you. But I want you to really make sure that you're going through and doing your name over and over and over again. This time I think I'm going to do the peach down here. And you can see I am not making a pattern with my colors, although I still could if I wanted to. I could do what I've already done and just continue and make that into a pattern. M-I-A. My letters are I'm using uppercase letters and they're taking up most of my space. I'm going to use the dandelion color. M. So I'm going to use the peach for the I. I. And then I'm going to use A. It's kind of a nice pretty purpley color. I don't think I used that one yet, did I? I started to, and I changed my mind. I am going to try not to use the same color underneath. You can choose how to do it however you want. M. I. A. Oops, I broke my crayon, didn't I? I was pressing down really hard, which is okay. Still works, right? Broken crayon is still going to do a good job if you let it. This color, I think. M. I. A. And if I miss a little spot and I want to go back and fill in, I can. And then finally, I have one more M to put in. I think I'm going to do that in this purple color. Okay, now that we have our letters written, okay, you are doing your own name. The next thing that we need to do is we need to do the watercolor part. Now, watercolor starts with the word water because your watercolor needs plenty of water. So I have here my little palette of colors. I have a brush. I have a paper towel. You always need a paper towel when you're doing watercolor because you want to make sure that you keep that color nice and clean, your brush nice and clean. And I have my cup of water. I want to make sure that my brush is clean before I begin. So I'm going to take my brush, hold my cup, rinse it inside, wipe it 1, 2, 3 times inside the cup, 1, 2, 3 times on the paper towel. It's clean, so I can begin. Anytime I change colors, if I go from yellow to blue or orange to purple or red to orange, I want to make sure that I keep my brush clean. I have to wipe it inside here first so it doesn't soak my paper towel. If I soak my paper towel, it doesn't do a very good job for me. So I'm going to get my brush a little bit wet, okay, just a little bit in the top, wipe it a little bit on the side, not a lot. And then I'm going to choose my first color. I don't want to use red on top of red. If I use red on top of red, it doesn't show up very well. So I want to use a color that's going to contrast with that. I want to use a color that's going to be very different than that. I also want to save my darkest colors for the end. They look really good, but they'll get my water really dirty and dark very quickly. So I get my brush a little bit wet. I think I'm going to use yellow first. So I'm going to come to my yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strokes in the yellow is probably enough to start. We'll see. I might need a little bit more in a minute, but it's always easier to start lighter and build up to get a little bit darker later. So as you're painting, you drag your brush. So my brush is going to the top, but the bristles are going at the very end. So I'm dragging my brush. I'm not pushing with my brush. If I push, meaning my brush goes like this and my bristles go first, then my brush ends up looking kind of like this. And I don't really want this kind of a brush. This won't do a good job. I want my brush to do a good job for me, so I have to take good care of it. All right, I've got yellow there. I think I'm going to put yellow somewhere else. I'm going to get it just a little bit more wet. And I'm going to come back to my yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should be plenty. And I think I'm going to try yellow down here with my purple. So I can go back and forth top to bottom. Or, that's a little bit much, can go back and forth side to side. Okay, I'm trying to stay within my gray squares. And what hasn't happened yet, and what I'm going to show you here in a second, is how the wax of the crayon, or if we were doing oil pastel in the classroom, the oil pastel, wax and water don't like each other. Oil and water don't like each other. So what happens is that wax of the crayon or the oil of the oil pastel would push through. So where that's going to show up really well is I have this nice light peach eye. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to choose a darker color. I think I'll get with my green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll see how that pushes through. So that peach was really nice and light, right? Even though it's so nice and light, it shows up really well with that kind of darker green paint. The green's not super dark, but even if it were black or brown or purple, that would show up really, really well. I'm going to get a little bit more green in there because I want it to be a little more intense in the color. Okay, so I'm dragging my brush back and forth and I'm filling that in, and you can see how that peach crayon just pushed right through. All right, rinse, 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 wipe, 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 dry, 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 and then get a little bit wet again. It's clean, so I can get a little bit wet, and now I'm going to get a new color. I think I'm going to choose orange. I'm going to go through and I'm going to paint each and every block. As I paint the blocks, I can choose to do a pattern in the paint. I can choose to let it be kind of random. I can choose to use the same color, even if I could choose orange every time I do yellow if I wanted to. I could choose to do yellow paint on every purple letter. There's a lot of different ways that you can kind of play with this and just have fun. I think I'm going to come down here with my orange, even though my red and orange, and this is going to show you, my red and orange are very similar in value. Value means how dark the color is. Because they are so similar in value, the eye shows up, but it doesn't stand out. See how that eye, you can see it, you know it's there, but it doesn't stand out the way the M did. So that has to do with the value of that yellow being much lighter than the value than the orange, and the value of the red is very similar to the value of the orange. So they don't stand apart quite as much as, oh, not quite clean. I need to rinse it a little bit more. They don't stand apart quite as much. All right, so what you're going to do once you have your name written out, once you have some color ideas going on, you're going to go through and you're going to start thinking about what you're painting. You want plenty of water. You don't want a ton of paint, because if you have a ton of paint, it sometimes dries a little bit sticky. So we don't want it to be sticky. If it's too light, like if my blue ends up being too light, I can always come back in and add another layer on top. But if I paint really dark to begin with, sometimes my brush gets kind of scratchy, and sometimes the paint gets kind of sticky, and I don't really want that. So if I want it darker than that later, I can come do another layer later. Rinse, 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 wipe, 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 dry, dry, dry. I'm going to turn my paper because it'll be a little easier for me to paint these up here. So my paper, whatever I'm painting, if it's closest to me, that's going to help me a lot. This time I'm going to do red paint on top of the yellow letter. I have yellow paint on top of the red letter. So I'm going to do just the opposite. Okay. You can see I'm getting paint on the table underneath my picture. That is why you should have a placemat, which basically what I have under here is a mat. It's a mat that I can wipe everything off of pretty easily. Plastic placemats are great. Anything that you can just kind of wipe up is going to be better than a table. And I got a little bit of red over on my yellow. It's not a big deal, but if I want to fix it, I can always take my paper towel and just kind of blot it. It doesn't get rid of it entirely, but it got rid of a little bit of it. Then I can come back and I can just like that. And that's going to get that pretty well. I think my yellow will keep pushing through the red paint. It may not. I may not have done it dark enough. Then I don't want to do orange right on top of my purple. So I'm going to do green. I think that'll be nice on top of that purple. It's kind of fun to see how your colors push through and how they pop next to each other. Oh, see how that got a little bit, that happens sometimes. That's the other nice thing about having a paper towel handy, is that if you are careful with your paper towel, you can kind of blot up little mistakes where your colors might bleed together and you don't want it to. Sometimes it's kind of nice when that happens, but sometimes that's not your plan. Rinse, 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 wipe, 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 dry, dry, dry. Now I'm going to show you, and I'm not going to do the whole painting. You guys are figuring this out is my guess, but I'm going to show you what it looks like if I do the black on top of another color. So I'm going to do it on this peach actually, because the peach is so nice and light. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So there is the black, and look at how that peach just really pushes right through that dark black paint. It's pretty cool how that happens. Okay, I saved the black for the end because if I were to go back into the yellow, even though I do a really good job rinsing, sometimes it kind of makes my colors a little bit cloudy, and I don't really want the cloudy colors. All right, so you now need to finish your artwork. I'm going to show you again the original ones that I did. If I were to pick this up and hold it this way, this wet paint would all run into each other. So I have to turn it flat, okay? So always make sure that you let it dry flat. So I'm going to move that over to the side, and then you can look and you can see my Karen here, okay? And you can see my Otis here. So your painting at the end should have your name. It should have hopefully lots of color, maybe some pattern, maybe not. But I would love to see them. So if you're doing this at home, maybe your parents can take a picture and post it on the Canyon View website page, or maybe if you're doing it in your classroom, your teacher can take pictures of you guys and your paintings and post those, if that's all right. It's lots of fun, and I hope you have a good time.